Welcome to the TOEFL listening section. In this part, you will hear one or more conversations in an academic or campus context, such as a discussion between a student and a professor, or between two students. You may take notes while listening. Listen to part of a conversation. You will hear it only once, so listen carefully. After the conversation, you will answer questions about what you heard. Some questions will ask you about main ideas and details. Others will ask about implied meaning, speaker attitude, or how ideas relate to one another. Use both what is stated and what is implied to answer.
Good afternoon, Dr. Andrews. Thank you for meeting with me during office hours. I wanted to go over some vector control strategies for my presentation next week.
Hello, Maya, no problem. Tell me which aspects you want to focus on. Vector control is a broad field.
I want to cover methods used to prevent disease transmission by insects. I am thinking of insecticide-treated nets, indoor residual spraying, larviciding, and biological control, but I am not sure how to organize them for the audience.
That is a good start. It helps to frame the strategies into categories. For example, chemical control such as LLINs and IRS, environmental management and source reduction, biological control like larvivorous fish or entomopathogenic fungi, and innovative techniques like Wolbachia releases and sterile insect technique.
Could you explain how Wolbachia fits in? I have trouble explaining why infecting mosquitoes would reduce disease transmission.
Sure. Wolbachia is a bacterium that can be introduced into Aedes aegypti populations. It interferes with the mosquito ability to transmit viruses such as dengue. Field trials in several cities showed lower dengue incidence after Wolbachia establishment.
So it is a form of biological control. Is it more sustainable than repeated insecticide spraying?
Often, yes. Once Wolbachia spreads through the mosquito population, it can persist without constant reapplication. That reduces reliance on insecticides and limits selection pressure for resistance.
Resistance is another big issue. I read about pyrethroid resistance in Anopheles and Aedes. How should that influence control strategies?
Resistance management is central. Using a single insecticide repeatedly causes target populations to develop resistance. Integrated vector management, or IVM, combines methods and rotates insecticides and uses non-chemical approaches to delay resistance.
For integrated management, could you give an example of combining methods in a malaria control program?
Yes. A typical program might distribute long-lasting insecticidal nets for personal protection, apply indoor residual spraying selectively in high transmission areas, conduct larval source management in urban breeding hotspots, and use entomological surveillance to guide decisions. Community education and environmental management are included so breeding sites are eliminated.
You mentioned larval source management. What practical measures are used for that?
Source reduction involves eliminating standing water, covering water storage containers, improving drainage, and modifying environments so they do not support larval habitats. Larviciding with bacterial agents such as Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis is another tool when elimination is impractical.
Is using larvivorous fish still common?
In some settings, yes. Small fish that eat mosquito larvae have been used successfully in irrigation schemes and water storage tanks in parts of Asia. It is a low-cost biological control in appropriate habitats.
What about tsetse flies and sleeping sickness? Are there specific vector control strategies there as well?
Definitely. For tsetse, traps and targets treated with insecticide and sterile insect technique where mass-released sterile males reduce reproduction have been used. Those are species-specific controls and successful in certain campaigns.
How do surveillance and mapping fit into strategy selection?
Entomological surveillance is fundamental. You need data on vector species composition, density, biting behavior, and insecticide susceptibility. GIS mapping of breeding sites and transmission hotspots helps target interventions more efficiently.
That makes sense. For example, focusing larviciding on mapped breeding sites would be more efficient than blanket application.
Exactly, and targeted approaches reduce environmental impact and cost. Also, techniques like attractive toxic sugar baits can target sugar-feeding behaviors in mosquitoes and be deployed in hotspots identified by surveillance.
Are there any notable case studies that illustrate integrated approaches?
Yes. In Zanzibar, combining IRS with LLIN distribution improved case management and vector surveillance reduced malaria substantially. For dengue, city trials that combined community cleanup campaigns with Wolbachia releases and focal source reduction recorded sharp declines in reported cases.
How important is community engagement in all this?
Community participation is essential. If we only spray without community engagement, breeding sites will just come back and resistance will build. Householders need to be involved in source reduction, accept interventions, and report changes.
I see. So sustainability depends on local buy-in as much as technical choices.
Yes. Also, regulatory and ethical considerations matter, for example, when releasing modified mosquitoes. Transparency and risk assessment build public trust.
One last question. Are there new technologies on the horizon that I should mention?
Newer tools include gene drive approaches to suppress or modify vector populations, auto-dissemination stations that spread larvicides by contaminated adults, and better diagnostics integrated with vector surveillance. But many of these require careful ecological assessment before wide deployment.
Thank you. This is very helpful. I will structure my presentation around categories, give examples such as Wolbachia and sterile insect technique, and emphasize surveillance and community engagement.
That is a good plan. Make sure to discuss resistance management and real-world case studies. Send me your slides when you have a draft and we can refine them.
I will. Thank you for your time.
You are welcome. Good luck with your presentation.
Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
If we only spray without community engagement, breeding sites will just come back and resistance will build.
This concludes the conversation portion. For more TOEFL practice tests and study materials, visit Spinta.org.